Hello, my name is Ruby Steele. I'm one of the designers from Big Life Fix. I work at a company called Smart Design. I'd say I'm an experienced designer, just to keep it really broad and vague. I design things, better experiences for people. And I was lucky enough to be involved in the first and second series of Big Life Fix.
I have to say that Graham's story just destroyed me.
I know it was quite an intense experience, really, to meet someone that was living in those circumstances. It was quite a thing.
I have to say, the moment you guys found that box of like his voice on sort of recorded videos, I was just like, are they going to do what I think they're going to do? And I just thought, this is incredible. This is so amazing. It just
it was so crazy because one of the first things we did was ask whether there was any recordings of his voice, because Zoe, his wife, that was one of the worst things for her, is not sort of being with him and doing the best to communicate without speech, but just not actually getting to hear his voice. And one of the things that I remember really clearly was her saying to me that she just said, go home and take a recording of your loved one. She was like, just do it, because you just don't understand what it feels like not to have it anymore. And honestly, like, that just, it stayed with me until now. But at the time, I just couldn't stop thinking. Whenever I was with any of my family or my friends, I was just thinking, what would it be like if I could never hear your voice again? So we were so determined to try and find a recording of him. But she was, she'd already been through every answer phone, every possible kind of, could there be something here? So it was a real surprise. It was about 3 weeks, I think, before the end of the project, and she videos, and it was just insane. It was hours and hours of footage. The thing is that he was because he was like their dad, he was often behind the camera.
Yeah.
So actually it was quite, even though it was hours of footage, pulling out the bits that he was actually speaking in was actually kind of few and far between, and often you could hear his voice but couldn't see him. It was a big editing job. Cut it all out.
So special though. So I knew that I was going to be a fan of it, when I was kind of waiting to know whether I was being selected, I knew I was going to be a fan of it whether I was selected or not, because it's completely up my street. Technology makes things better. Love that. It's like, it's my dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, when I met you guys and just saw the work you were doing, I became completely just transfixed on it. And I think so many other people did as well. Just, it opened up people's minds to the fact that they could solve people's problems as well. It actually, you could maybe even not be a designer, and you could think cleverly, and you might be able to solve a problem for someone. And it sort of, I think it just awakened something in the general public that really was needed at that time.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was first approached as to sort of, to possibly kind of apply to be part of the team, I was so excited to see a program that was looking at, design and tech for good, because it's just, it's something that I've just had a lifelong passion for, and having the opportunity to have that on such a kind of like open stage, something as huge as the BBC, was just so exciting. And it's just like you say, it's kind of, I think the nature of it is about like trying to inspire and give hope and encourage other people to get involved. I think one of the best things that's happened since the show aired was just the number of people that I've had, or that we've all had, like, contact us saying, we want to do projects like this, we want to get involved, I have an idea, I want to do. It's just, that's what you want to see, really. You want to, like you say, like, have people kind of think, hang on a minute, maybe I can make this situation better. Like, maybe there's something I can do.
I had a guy run really excitedly up to me at a workshop, and he said, "I've made it." And I was like, "What have you made?" And he said, "I've made the Emma watch." I was like, "Oh my God, really? How? What have you made?" And he said he'd strapped an electric toothbrush to his wrist and it had the same effect. And I was like, "Good on you, mate. That's awesome."
Oh no way, really? That's
I can't imagine it had
amazing.
the exact same effect, but it was
Oh, but I
apparently
suppose
actually it did help him. But I was
it did
like,
help him, did it?
good on you. That's amazing. I mean, not great when you
You're
need to
lucky.
write and use your toothbrush at the same time, but you know, that happens so rarely
I mean, yeah,
that
maybe it is quite multi-purpose, but oh wow, that's a really sweet story. Yeah, I think that I think the program's got kind of like a hope about it, and I think the kind of the people that I've met and the people that like some of the other guys have met sort of through. I mean, the people like you know, it was your show. Do you know what I mean? Like we were kind of just there facilitating things, but it was your kind of involvement and kind of, you know, bravery to go through something like that, because I mean you can't have really known what was going to happen. Were you
I
sort
don't
of
think
just
any
trying to
of
keep
us
your
did,
hopes?
did we really? I think, you know, it was about kind of trying to be optimistic in the fact that actually it might not work. That actually, you know, I knew that Hyann was a pretty impressive lady, and she knew what she was doing, and I knew that if she couldn't do it, then probably no one could. But I also knew that I was putting a lot of pressure on her in my mind with that, and I was trying not to do that. And they kept saying to me, just, you know, be cool about it, like, just don't get too stressed about it, don't worry too much, don't get too excited. And I'm like, oh, but I am.
Oh,
And it
it's so
just,
difficult.
you just have no idea. You know, I wasn't sure whether when I first used it, it was going to work. And I interviewed Jamie the other day, the director, and he said that none of them had a
Yeah.
clue about, you know, whether it was actually going to work. And he said it's like one of those moments that just kind of stays with him, that actually, I think it was the fear beforehand that we all just breathe this kind of collective sigh of relief.
Relief. I know, because it's. I mean, from my point of view, like you go into something like that, and the pressure to try and figure something out, because you've got this like motivation like no other
Yeah.
motivation has ever been, because you're with someone and you can see you've kind of like worked out the you know, the problem, the challenge, and you kind of envisioned how you want to solve it, but the actual feat of getting to the place of solving it is, you can never tell whether it's really truly possible. So I think for all of us, you know, we were all just like constantly hoping as well, even, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
because you don't know. It was all an experiment, it was all new things that hadn't been tried before. So that, yeah, I think there's like a moment of relief when you think, okay, I have actually done something that's been worth it for, you know, for this person. But yeah, your moment, my goodness, I still watch that and get goosebumps,
Yeah, same.
still. And because obviously when we did know, when we were all working on all of the projects, we knew each other's projects and we were involved. You know, some of us were very heavily involved. I wasn't. I was sort of just trying to stay afloat with the projects I had on, but we're all kind of keeping on, you know, sort of up to date with everything. And I remember Hyann, you know, she just had no idea. She just had no idea whether it was really going to actually affect a change. So, but I can remember, because I think hers was the first, I think we got that project finished before any of the
Yeah, it was
others.
stunning,
So I
wasn't
remember
it?
her coming out of it just like so elated
Yeah,
that it
I
had
did
worked.
it.
Kind of, really, it was quite amazing.
I feel like we need a Ross and Ryan moment now because the internet is so shocking I can barely see your face. We have like a stay little moment at the
Where
moment.
are you guys? We need you.
Definitely something wrong with.
Nice work, dude. So well done.
Yeah.
What was the experience of filming The Big Life Fix like? Have you ever had a situation like that before, where you've been given such? I mean, I know as a designer you would have been given a lot of short deadlines in your time, but what was it like, kind of creating something where you only had certain times when you could actually meet the person to discuss it and things like that? Was it difficult?
I honestly have never been more under pressure and more stressed in my entire life. I think the thing about making a TV show like that is you're trying to make a TV show, and the making of the TV show is fantastic because it means that we can share it and communicate it. But when you're actually trying to do the design, I don't know. There was such precious amount of time that I think it definitely got quite difficult. But I think the most challenging thing was just the kind of the technical difficulties of creating something brand new when you get so close to the person you're designing for, and you want so much for it to be, to exceed yours and theirs like wildest expectations. But at the end of the day, well, certainly in my case, I'm just a designer. I'm not, there's only so much that I can do. So I think
you're a very smart designer.
Thank you.
And a very designer.
I think, it was the rewards were very, very high, because I don't think I'll ever experience anything like that quite again ever in my, well, I hope I do, but the moments when you actually are standing there and seeing the difference that all that hard work has actually made is like nothing else. But sort of during the process, I think design, being a creative is quite stressful as it is, because it's always kind of like the anxiety of the unknown. I mean, you'll know this. You can't turn creativity like on and off. Like, you just kind of have to let it kind of come.
And it's so subjective. It's so subjective as to whether something works or not. And I think whether someone actually likes something, and it's difficult, because I think the great thing about the show was that we were very much treated like collaborators, and that actually it felt very much like my opinion really mattered.
Oh yeah.
And that if I said to Hyann, "It's so ugly," she should have been like heartbroken.
I know. Fixed it. Yeah.
Because it wasn't like we'll just give them whatever we can give them and that we'll be done with it because they should be grateful. It was actually like, we're going to make something that changes their life and is cool, and that my boyfriend was jealous of because it was cool tech, and it's like, that was the kind of important things. You don't want to, just because you're disabled, you don't want to have something that marks you out as being disabled. You want to have something that marks you out as being superhuman with your superhuman powers.
Yeah. That's so true. And I think there's a lot of I think that kind of gets missed sometimes with, especially with kind of like medical devices. They just turn into. Why is everything beige? Everything's always so beige.
So grim.
It's so grim. And actually, when you think about it, these kind of products are like the most critical out of all the products that exist. Things that are helping humans sort of do the things that they want to do. So hopefully that message can sort of be communicated.
Yeah, the two things don't have to be independent of each other. They can be beautiful, designed, and useful.
Exactly. They can be a lifestyle object as much as they are a kind of, medical device, if that's what it is.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I was part of a talk the other day that one of Hyann's sort of colleague Hector did a talk about kind of disability and accessibility and things like that, and it was really useful. He actually said this point that I've never heard of it described as this before, but I really liked it. The fact that at some point we will all either be, you can be like long-term disabled, which is something like Parkinson's, where you have a long-term disability that means that you need help doing stuff. There's short-term disabilities, like if you break an arm or something, and then there's situational disability, which is almost like if you're holding a baby and you haven't got both hands. And then actually all those three things can use the same tech. So actually nicely designed, sensible tech is useful for everyone, because there's always going to be a point that you're tied up and busy and, you need that extra hand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that I mean, one of the things that I sort of really learned from doing the program was, you know, if you design for the extreme, if you design for that you know, really extreme use case, you do end up discovering things that can be really applicable to many, many more people. And actually, by forcing yourself into something that is, you know, quite challenging and, yeah, like I said, quite extreme, you discover things that you might not have found otherwise. So actually, always just designing for the kind of, you know, average height, average family, 2.5 children, all that stuff. You're missing a trick. Like, the design industry is missing a trick if you design like that. There's a really lovely talk by a guy called Robin Christopherson, and he talks a lot about accessibility, and makes this exact point. And actually, I think the reference that he used in his talk was, you know, when you're walking down the street and you're using an iPhone. So he's blind, and he was, you know, actually he really raves about a lot of the accessibility features for visually impaired people on kind of the iPhone. But he was sort of saying, you know, there is a point in the day when when you're you know, not able to use the phone in the same way. You're walking down the street, you're holding a hot coffee, the sun is shining on your screen, you can't see it, or you're really drunk, or, you know, it's, and actually, you know, technology should be kind of filling in the gaps where it can.
Definitely, totally agree. So have you always been interested in tech for good, or is it something that sort of sparked in you more recently?
No, it is something that I have had kind of a lifelong passion for, really. I think when I was at school, there was a woman called Emma Cole, who I love. She came, I'm good, sort of still friends with her now. She came in to give a talk, and she actually had HIV. So she came in to talk about her experiences with HIV, which actually at the time it's got a lot better, but this was kind of, oh my goodness, when was I at school? Like 15 years ago, and a long time ago. And actually her story was all about, you know, the stigma and the way that people treated her, and the kind of, like, you know, kind of poor education in this, you know, within HIV. And I just it just really lit a fire under me at that stage. I didn't know how, and I didn't know, like, you know, what I could do that could sort of be involved to create better experiences for people like Emma. But that's just what I wanted to do. And so it's been a kind of winding journey since then, because I'd always been quite creative. But I mean, I started my career as a graphic designer, as a visual designer, and I really loved the idea of campaigning and, you know, kind of spreading the word about sort of educating people on different conditions or whatever it might be to help. And then I sort of slowly moved into product design and digital design, because that's when I realized that, you know, maybe I could be part of teams that were actually, you know, making new products that would actually, you know, interface with people and actually help living with conditions, you know, make it better. So kind of since leaving school, I've been looking for opportunities where I might be able to do projects like that. So when Big Life Fix came along, it was just right up my street. Absolutely.
Are you able to talk about what you're working on now, or anything you've just finished working on?
Yeah, well, I've finished all the projects that I've done for Series 2 of Big Life Fix, which will be coming out in May or June, I think. I can't... What's that, sorry?
Exciting!
I know, yeah, no, it's really exciting. Oh goodness, there's 4 more episodes, there's 12 more stories. It's like kind of a bonkers amount of work, really. I'm really excited to see the other stories other than ones that I worked on. So all those kind of got all of that to come. But I'm not actually able to talk about the stuff that I'm doing at work, but I have been doing some really interesting stuff in healthcare. I get in my job, I get to do a lot of ethnography and like one-on-one interviews, and it's really important for me to make sure that we've really understood the context and the person that we're supposed to be designing for, which is really fun, because it just means you get to meet really interesting, amazing people and hear all these different stories about stuff. But yeah, I'm always I'm always trying to find opportunities to get involved with projects that I really care about. I've been working with an organisation called My Care Matters, which is an amazing organisation that it was all started by this lady called Zoe, who her husband suffered with dementia at the end of his life. And she was sort of, obviously very involved in all the care that he needed. He ended up needing to go into a home, and she found that his experience of being in hospital was really kind of left wanting, not really through the fault of any of the staff there, but just because lots of information about him was getting lost. Because when you've got staff rushing in and out of a hospital room, it's hard for them to go deep with people and actually know things about them. So it was the story she always tells is of he wasn't very well able to communicate towards the end. He was very confused. He didn't know things, and it was just simple things like he didn't take milk in his tea, and the kind of people would come in and sort of plonk a kind of cup of milky tea down in front of him, and he just, in his state of mind, he didn't know it was for him. So not only is that actually a little bit distressing, because that kind of stuff's quite important, but he just didn't know it was for him, so he didn't drink it and would get really dehydrated, and that actually makes dementia worse. So she couldn't understand what was going on. She couldn't understand how he would kind of sort of keep getting worse, and then she'd sort of have to do a bit of detective work to figure out what had been going on. And realised it was, found this cold cup of tea and was like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. So she started putting post-it notes next to his bed of just little bits of information, like he takes milk in his tea and this, and make sure you do this. And it started being really effective. So some of the other families in the care home started doing the same thing. And from there, she developed these care charts that were just sort of like, A4 sort of poster style things with just those key bits of information. And that's where My Care Matters was kind of born. And I met her at a conference about a year ago now. And it was just one of those situations where, again, I was like, oh, I want to help. I want to see what I can do to kind of get involved. So I've been doing some stuff like that, along with a group of really great young designers that I met sort of via Big Life Fix, that wanted to kind of get involved, a bit like we were saying before. They want sort of, there is such a big community out there of people that want to do this kind of work. So we've been working together to try and help My Care Matters kind of, just with just some of the general UX stuff that she needs help with. So that's been really great. Really enjoying that. It's great to do that kind of stuff.
It's an all right life, isn't it?
It's an all right life, Emma. Yes.